No, because the other day we had a group of people in here. And it was funny too because these are all people who represent segments of the so-called conscious community. And I said, I need to ask you guys a question. They was like, yeah, what is it? And I said, how many? I said, how many people agree with the fact? If I said that God is inside of all of us, or God is in us, or God shared a portion of Himself with us, or He's in us, how many people would say that's a correct statement? And they all raised their hand and said that they all agreed that that was a correct statement. And I said, but you're wrong. And they said, and they was kind of bewildered. What do you mean you're wrong? What do you mean? I said, because that's foreign thought. That's not African thought. Foreign thought doesn't believe that there's God in you. And see, foreign thought states that God is in you. African thought states that you are God. It's a big difference. One of them, see, an African or Nubian, Kushite, Ethiopian, Kemetic thought states that we see the universe as a whole. And so we see all the parts related, and we see everything connected, and everything is connected. All is energy, the one all energy, or the no thing that becomes all things. That's what we dealt with. Foreign thought states that there was a God that created. He was apart from His creation, and He rules apart from His creation. That sounds to me like some people standing outside of a black world looking at it and having intentions for that black world to disrupt it, refashion it, and all this and that. That's their perspective. Our perspective as Nubian, Kushite, Kemetic people is that we brought ourselves forth from the noon, or the nun, as some people say. So therefore we grew organically with the universe. Or should I say that we were the first people to find consciousness in the universe, and therefore we came from the noon, and we manifested out of all that is. That's quite different than saying there was a God who created us. Nobody created us. You feel me? We are eternal, and we've been doing this for eternity. It's just that the hidden becomes manifest. That which was infinite becomes finite. That which was invisible becomes visible, or that which was limitless becomes limited. And now you say that, well, if you're God, then why are you so weak? If you're God, why are you being ruled and all this and that? Because guess what? There's no absolutes in the manifest universe. Everything goes through stages and cycles. So the point I'm trying to make is that God was limited by the law of His own creation. Meaning by the time that high energy, that high mind, and that emotional waters began to flow and man was able to find himself in a human body, he was limited by the laws of physicality. You feel me? So the body is limited by the laws that produced it. So therefore God first has to submit to the laws, natural laws, because saying nature and God is the same concept. So he has to submit to the natural laws, and then he's submitting to the natural laws and understanding them with humility and trying to personify the laws and the principles of it. Then over the course of time, those laws submit to him, and then he's able to supersede the natural laws with the law of divine creative essence. You feel me? Or divine will. He's able to impose divine will over a natural environment. So, it's funny that we're still going around with foreign thought thinking that it's our own. And most people can't tell the difference between their thought and our thought. If everything is spirit, and spirit is what some people call, to the left they call energy. And energy is not created or destroyed, it's transformed, meaning that nothing can't become something and something can't become nothing. And even when you call it a nothing, it just means that it's so subtle, it can't be registered by the human senses of seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, hearing. So the whole point that we're trying to say is something always has to exist to produce something. So for the African mind, that something that always had existed was the primordial waters or the primordial oceans called the nun or the noon. So we brought ourselves forward from this. See, was no God standing over there and saying, I'm going to create, and then he goes and creates something. There ain't no God separate from his creation, because really all of it is God, because all of it is nature, and God and nature is saying the same thing. It's a totality of energy that manifests as things, that personifies itself as things. You feel me? So, and it's also funny and imperative that the people say that we were inferior because we venerated nature. White people make nature, they see nature as commerce. Like, everything is for sale. The trees and waters and land can be owned by humans and they can be sold by humans. We didn't believe that. We saw everything as sacred. Why? Because we were the last to arrive on the scene. The animals were here before us. See? That's why we venerated the ape, the gorilla. Why? Because the gorilla, who doesn't speak the way we speak, is closer to the beginning. So in evolution, which believes that things are getting better along the way, which hasn't proven itself to be true, is that right? Evolution is a linear concept that says things are getting better the further and further they get away from the source. Is that true? I'm asking you a question. Right, it's not true, because look at the state of the world and look at the state of the people. Our ancestors didn't believe that way. Sankofa, returning to the source, looking behind you. Why? Because millions of years of human wisdom, we stood on the shoulders of giants, our ancestors, our elders. You feel me? So in order for us to know what we are, we have to retrace our steps back to the point of origin. And that way we know that it's by revolution and returning to the source that we figure out the sacredness of things. Not through evolution, running in the opposite direction of the history, of the earth, of the wisdom, and all those type of things. So this is my challenge to all of the so-called conscious people out there. Some people live in fear, and they're afraid, and they live in fear, and so therefore they live in their minds and call it spirituality because they're afraid to act. They're afraid to get out into the world and challenge and gain dominion. As a matter of fact, I'm inclined to believe that what most people call spirituality is really just materialism. Because in all actuality, when you look at a person saying that they're trying to master themselves, they're really just talking about trying to discipline their mind and their emotions in the interest of being the best they can be on the physical plane. So therefore, you came to the earth to do something, and therefore the God does not deny the body to fulfill the spirit. In all actuality, He fulfills the spirit through the body. So you came here to do something. But most of us are living in fear, and therefore we sit on our hands, we're not acting. And we create fancy mental philosophies that don't play out in life. This is not the way of the ancestors. The earth reflects the humans that live on it. So we have to stand up and do something. Your knowledge is to solve problems in your life. We can't just live in our minds and call it spirituality. We can't just live in fear in our imaginations and call it spirituality. When you look at the Kemetic community or the so-called conscious community, they're no worse than the so-called ignorant or unenlightenment. And as a matter of fact, the ignorant and unenlightenment are actually sometimes better than them, because at least they're out there taking chances, doing stuff that we call ignorant, but it's robbing and stealing, but they're doing something. What are we doing? Sitting around philosophizing. You feel me?
Yeah.
Is that right?
And dreaming and meditating.
And dreaming and meditating, or sisters are putting kente cloth on it and claiming to be divine, but really their behaviors are no less worse than the whores, the sisters that we call whores are unenlightened. As a matter of fact, a lot of our conscious sisters use this Kemetic language as a license to be actually undisciplined and be greater whores than the whores they were before they were enlightened, because now they do it under the guise of freedom and in the language of freedom and under the guise of I just want to be free and express my divine self, and going out here and doing the worst. Bodies ended up just like the so-called unconscious community. So my challenge is to all the gods of the earth, who are the fathers of all humanity, white people, Mexicans, and all those people. They're all brothers and sisters. You and I are their parents. So I challenge all the gods of the earth to let us do something to change our plight. Let us not talk something, let us do something. You feel me? You are God. God is not only in you, you are God. We deal with it from a holistic perspective. You are God here on the earth, and you have creative abilities, and that's why your life reflects your thoughts. Your life reflects your creative abilities. If you're not positive, by default, you have to be negative. So therefore, you create a negative reality for yourself. If you are not constructive by nature, by default, you're destructive. That's why our communities are in the state that they're in. All this so-called gangsterism, when you really look at it, is just weakness with a big mouth, weakness with weapons, because it is not self-mastery. We have to teach children not to be destructive. We have to teach children not to be violent, to share. All these are the behaviors of a child. So our communities reflect childish behaviors. We have not yet grown up. And I challenge all of our brothers and sisters to be the God that you are. You see, I say that we have to live our life this time as living sacrifices. We live again. We live multiple times. In this time, in order to restore the earth back to a divine balance, Ma'at, in order to make the earth reflect divine intent, we have to sacrifice our lives. We have to stop playing the game. Stop sitting around playing video games. Stop doing all these things. We need to do something, people. Brothers and sisters, your life is short and your life is fast. We need to do something. If you don't know what to do, then we ask that you contribute to those who are trying to do what needs to be done, like myself and the brothers who I build with. we are trying to create schools. Matter of fact, it is our intention to create schools. It is our intention to create, hospitals. It is our intention to create wealth. It is our intentions to create commerce. It is our intentions to, connect with our people all around the earth. And we would not let anything